the summary is we are going to have much more opportunity for referrals and some collaboration given the new target market being CEOs, senior executives, and founders who want to leverage their personal brand in the service of their company. So it is, and we're centered on three mechanisms to do that, which are speaking, publishing, and podcasting. Obviously, publishing is the big neon light above Steve and your heads. When they say, "Hey, David, who's going to actually help me write and publish and produce this book?" That's when I say, you need to talk to my friend Devin Sizemore, and Devin is our go-to guy to actually get the book done. So the ecosystem around what we're doing is obviously you in the publishing seat. I have Tom Schwab at Interview Valet for the podcast guesting. I've got another guy who does a nice job with podcast production if they want to do podcast hosting. And then on the speaking side, we have fantastic speaker coach, fantastic sizzle reel company to help them with the video. So we groom them and get them ready to go, and clarity, packaging, positioning, messaging, which I'm guessing makes the $1 million book process so much faster, so much easier because you're not pulling teeth, you're not starting them with a blank page. And similarly, I'm imagining that you've got some fantastic clients that they've worked on the book. Maybe they're not speaking as much as they would like to. Maybe they're not speaking at all. Podcast guesting, podcast hosting, marketing, sales strategy, all of those things to support the IP that's in their book. That would be a great referral coming our way. So I'm just seeing this really great kind of hand in glove, two-way connection. Am I right that I went to the website in preparation for our chat today? Your ideal client is going to be some sort of professional, doctor, lawyer, financial advisor, chiropractor. Is that correct? More so than a full-time consultant or full-time speaker. I know you have a smattering of those, but it's really about the working professional who wants to publish a book to promote their business. Is that correct?
I know you were like pulling it together and herding cats and streamlining and stepping back, and there was a lot of change.
Oh,
It's really
yes.
cool. I'm excited to check the website out, and it's so needed. I wrote a couple names down of people I'll connect you with that are targeting similar clients in different ways, or I think there might be some collaborative focus now that, again, there's clarity on that vision.
Right.
For us at Million Dollar Author, what the clients you identified, yes, we do a ton with consultants and coaches. We also do a lot with like marketing strategists, marketing agencies. Financial advisors tend to and are still our easiest to close, biggest bucket because it's such a crowded market space and you need authority and you need a voice. And so what I'm starting to find when I'm talking to people is if you are a leader of an organization and you find yourself in a crowded marketplace, that's when we probably should talk about a book, right? Because it will differentiate you, it'll give you something different. And then in your expertise and my own expertise, it makes it so much easier to book podcast guesting, to book speaking in stages, to even get sponsorship replies. Because
Yeah.
once they go, hey, Steve's a best-selling author, I'm a best-selling author, even if we can't speak, they reply and go, oh, you must be credible. So that crowded space messaging is working really well. And so that I think is our real focus is if you're selling your expertise in a crowded marketplace, why don't you have a book? Then to your point,
Absolutely.
why aren't you speaking? Why don't you have a podcast? Why aren't
That's
you
right.
podcast guesting? And if you are speaking and podcast guesting, are you actually getting anything out of it?
No, those other folks that you mentioned obviously are a great fit for us as well. Certainly the marketing agency owners. I just had a couple of conversations right before the holidays with a guy that there's a data analytics company, of which there's a million. There is a marketing agency that sort of focuses on customer journey mapping and some website stuff and some SEO and some data analytics. It's funny, there seems to be a million of these companies. Like if you go the marketing agency slash SEO slash data analytics, There's a million of those guys, and all their websites say the exact same thing.
They look the same,
All
feel
of
the
their,
same.
it's, oh my God, really? And it's a very red ocean for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that is the opportunity. I think back to working with, we do have a lot of data specific companies and do a lot in the IT space. So they do political and religious marketing. And they wrote a really specific book on that topic. And it was fascinating because it's such like a controversial topic, but they fully owned this space. And as I worked with them on the book, I was like, man, this is why it's so impactful as an agency to be able to take your approach and teach it, and it
Yeah.
will give you clarity in what you're offering, right? Because you have to be clear in order to write a book. Most of the time when I'm on podcasts, that's the thing they ask is what's the biggest outcome of writing a book? And I said, yeah, there's the extra revenue and the authority building, but the biggest value is clarity, right? You get
Yes.
extreme clarity in how to teach whatever your expertise is and do it in a way that's easy to digest. And if you can't do, that's where you got to put the time and energy in. Otherwise, what are you marketing and selling anyways? Talk to me about the struggle for someone who just wrote a book to jump into podcasting or speaking. Like, where the heck do they even start? I'd love to get your insight there.
Sure. The beauty of this, and this isn't true with everybody, my experience has been when someone has a book coming out, they are willing to ransom their children. They realize this is a one-time opportunity where it's go big, throw the building at this thing, whatever it takes to get this book the traction and the reviews and the recognition and the reach that it deserves. That's a great inflection point in their business is when they're writing a book, their wallet is open for all these other things, typically. I think the podcasting strategy is really about finding the niche podcast. Everyone wants to get on Entrepreneur on Fire. They all want to talk to JLD with millions of downloads, and that's nice, but that's not going to bring you business. So if you are targeting the manufacturing industry as a consultant, we need to find all of the top manufacturing industry podcasts because it's those manufacturing industry CEOs and presidents and owners that are listening to that podcast. It is much more important to have a relevant audience than to have a big audience. Your audience credit score, just like when you borrow money, you get a financial credit score. When you borrow audiences, you have a audience credit score.
We were just talking about vanity metrics on a podcast I was on yesterday, and they said, what are the keys to building a big network? And I said, it's not about the big network. That's the mistake is everyone's talking about their email list size, their social reach, and all these other metrics. How engaged
Sure.
is it? What's the reaction? So yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
This is a lot of times when your book is out and you ask someone these questions, how consistently do you borrow other people's audiences? You get the Scooby Doo look like, huh? I thought I had to do this on my own. I thought I had to buy Facebook ads. I thought I had to buy Amazon ads. I thought I had to collect all of these readers and whatever on my own, not understanding that there is pre-made audiences in the podcasting world that are dying to hear from you. So the two dimensions here are frequency here, audience size here, right? Okay, great. You've been on 3 podcasts and are going after either a broad audience like Entrepreneur on Fire, or are you going after new podcasts that are willing to take it's the narrow niche specific that have a large audience, not of listeners, but a large audience of your target market. And most of the rock stars that have an amazing book and that do the very successful podcast tours, they are constantly, meaning a couple times a week, 5, 6, 8 times a month, they're doing this. And they've really dialed in that narrow audience that is deep. So it has a lot of their target market. And that's the sweet spot is you want to be up here. Doing it once in a while, not good enough. Doing it with either small audiences or broad audiences, not good enough. And so we use things like ListenNotes. We use strategies like follow the leader. So find 5 of your biggest competitors. Go to Listen Notes, find out what shows they've been on, because the shows they've been on are probably shows that you should be on. And so we help them set that strategy. And this is really the new credibility. So it's so funny. I had a guest on my podcast. He sent me his media kit. And this is how he gets speaking engagements. What did he put into the media kit? Here's the podcasts I've been on. Here's the publications I've been featured in. So this is the new credibility. And of course, our show is right here. And so when I ask people that have a new book, what podcasts have you been on? Oh, I'm not really on a lot of podcasts. Great. Okay. Where has your content appeared? Oh, no, I just wrote a book. I have a blog and I have LinkedIn, but okay, those are both bad answers. So we need to put these podcast logos into your media kit. We need to put these publications into your media kit, because this is what's going to give you the credibility. That's okay, he wrote a book, but where else can I see this guy's work? As nowhere. Okay, you want to build some buzz around the book, and then this is borrowing other people's audiences. So all these subscribers, all of these downloads, all of these things, and of course podcasts are evergreen, much more so than publications, even online publications, because people subscribe and there's always new subscribers going back, downloading old episodes. So if we build this up with your podcasting strategy and we build this up with your publishing strategy, do you think you'll sell more books? And most people go, damn, I never thought about that. I thought I had to sell all my books by myself. And I think that's the big myth in the book business and the authorship business, is it's 100% dependent on your email list. It's 100% dependent on your LinkedIn connections. It's 100% dependent on how many Amazon ads you can buy all by yourself. And you should not be doing any of this all by yourself. All of these hosts are willing to share their audience with you, and all of these publications are willing to share their readership with you.
I love that. Let me ask a question slash make a point, because I think that I hear with podcasting, when I talk to experts or thought leaders, that they go, you know what, there's no return on investment for podcasting, right? But I think when you put those images up there, that alone is one value, right? Is you can then leverage the authority and credibility and leverage those. And what's great about this is the average person has no clue how popular or unpopular any of those podcasts are. What they see is they go, oh man, this guy's been on 20, 30, 40, 100 podcasts. So he must be credible because people are booking him or her. And so it's not just the direct return on investment if you have a call to action and hope someone's going to buy your thing. It's leveraging that credibility for social promotion, for your speaker reel, for your
So there's reusable assets, right? Financial, of course, you can make an offer on your podcast landing page, your podcast guesting landing page. So when people say, so Devin, where can people go to learn more about what you guys do? You don't send them to milliondollarauthor.io. You send them to your webinar. You send them to your lead magnet. You send them to something that's going to bring them into your world and expose them to buy a product, book a call, do something, take some kind of call to action. So boost sales via leads and direct promotion of products and services. Obviously, the networking effect, where if the host likes you, you can easily ask as a guest, hey, what other shows do you think I should be on?
I did 2 podcast recordings yesterday, 5 this week. One of them yesterday as a follow-up said, hey, you were a great guest. By the way, here's the other shows we manage or in our network. You're instantly approved for any of them. Which ones do you want? And it was great because it has the name, the link, and their target audience. I was like, this is like shooting fish in a barrel. But that happens, again, if you're a good guest, that's another outcome. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then this is my sort of whole podcast spiel, is that quality beats quantity, meaning niche down, right? Lead generation, don't just show up on the show with a strategy. What's going to go in the show notes? What are the links? What's the lead magnet? What's the front door to people who want to learn more? And then build a reliable conversion mechanism to turn those listeners into leads. So the conversation on the show, they're excited about that. Now they want to consume your content. whether it's free content, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, whatever, lead magnet, email, opt in. And then at that point, they're a believer, right? They're a believer slash customer slash client. And that goes from folks that are warm to folks that are very warm to folks that are hot and ready to buy. So all of this is in the masterclass. I just wanted to show you when you're saying, hey, how would you talk to a book author about the value of not just let's have the book, but let's also unleash the power of this. Yes, it'll bring you more book sales, but it'll also bring you more direct business. Because why'd you write the book? You didn't write the book to sell books. That's a nice side product. You wrote the book to bring in clients and to bring in revenue that goes way beyond the book revenue. Book revenue is the gravy. Client revenue and client sales is where the book really pays off.
That's awesome. Will you go back to the ROI slide? I'd like to look at that. So financial for sure, networking, reputational, yes. So that's the great leverage. Content, love the content. They tag
Yeah.
you in posts. They share your stuff. You can share their stuff. You can snip it, download it, stream it, reels, all sorts of stuff. Having been a host and now really focusing just on the guest side, as a guest, it's amazing. Like you show up, you answer questions, you get off. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, you got to fill out a form and give them your headshot and a bio and some stuff. It takes 5 minutes, but you're right though on that time level is for what you're putting in and what you get out, it is great leverage.
Yes. Absolutely. And so
What
think about the person that might want to do this versus people that come to you and say, hey, Devin, I'm so excited about my book. I want to drop 5 grand a month into a traditional PR firm. So, no, save the 5 grand a month and focus on the podcast guesting strategy because it will bring you more leads, better leads, and faster leads than any of those other things. And it's basically free, except for your time.
Oh, I love that. So let me ask this because I know you've done hundreds of interviews where you've hosted and asked questions, and then you've been a guest countless times. Give me some tips for being a great podcast.
Sure. I think the first thing is to give content that other guests would be afraid to say, don't have the expertise or the insight to say, or just wouldn't be bold enough to say. Rock the boat, be contrarian in your messaging. Say things where the host is like, man, I've done hundreds and hundreds of shows, but no one's ever said that about this topic. So I think that's number one. Number two is I think every host, and again, you've been on both sides of the equation, so have I. It is so rare, and I'm at 440 episodes. I maybe got 3 thank you emails. 3. So the bar here, Devin, is really low, right? So thank the host, ask the host, and again, whether they do something with it, whether it's a big splash or not. I love when guests ask me, hey, could you send me the raw video? My team is going to chop it up and we're going to put it into our email stream. We're going to put it into our social media marketing. And as soon as the episode comes out, we want to do a special newsletter or a special broadcast or a special something to promote the episode. So, my philosophy on this, what I'm teaching my clients is guests who promote the host are the ones that the host wants to promote. So, as a host, let's say that you're on my show. If you say, hey, David, I just promoted this to my 500 member LinkedIn group, I'm putting this in my email that's going out to our 2,500 people. And the moment it lands, could you and I hop on and do a Facebook Live for 10 minutes and promote the episode? We promote every episode the same way. I'm like, hang on, team. Devin's episode, we're going to do a second email for Devin's episode. We're going to do extra promotion on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything. And I want to do a couple of YouTube snippets to promote Devin's episode also. So now, because you offered to promote me first, I'm going to promote your episode using my platform, which in theory, not you personally, but any random guest, in theory, my platform's a lot bigger than their platform. So when you're willing to promote to 500 people, I get excited about promoting to my 50,000 people. And I think that's what makes a good podcast guest. It's not just what you do on the show. It's what, Are you easy to work with? Do you show up? You give really cool content that, is maybe contrarian or provocative or gets people to think in a different way? And then are you telling me to my face that you will go to bat to promote the hell out of this episode? Because that's going to want to make me promote the hell out of you.
Because so often when I ask hosts that question or I listen to strategists in the podcast space, it always defaults to the tech, right? Good sound, good mic, clean. Yeah,
That's sort
Hope,
of
you're a
table stakes. I
professional.
mean, we're expecting
Like,
that.
so I love that answer though. And I find that as a guest too. As soon as we're done, I'm sending an email to the host with direct feedback. Hey, I love these questions were great. I had one yesterday. The best podcast host I've ever had, period. And I told him that flat out. I replied and I said, the questions you ask pulled answers out that I don't think I've ever recorded on a podcast, ever.
Yes.
And I've been on a lot of podcasts and I've been on hundreds of stages. And so the fact that he asked questions that inspired a different conversation, I was like, this is amazing. And he loved that. Then he re-tagged me. And so now we got this little social thing going right now, which is great. And the YouTube views are going, the Spotify views are going just on that one episode. I love hearing you as a host. That's your feedback. I try so hard to share the love and put it on the website and then share it on LinkedIn, share it on Facebook. Talk to me about going after a vertical. So we talked about like a niche leveraging podcast, but I want to ask it really specific. We'll create a real example for a buddy of mine. So he is going after, he's a marketing agency, website, directory listings, and he wants to go after a vertical in 2025. His vertical is museums. So he wants to go after the museum world. Could podcast and speaking not be an amazing hack for him to go down that path?
Oh, absolutely.
Act like I'm not.
Okay.
I'd love to learn and let's educate a little.
So let me share the screen on this just for fun. So I went to listennotes.com and I typed in just the word museum. And on Listen Notes, there are multiple tabs up here. So there's episodes, and you can see museum is in 10,000 episodes. That doesn't mean that the show is necessarily about museums or museum directors or museum membership or museum visitor services or all of those different things. But I can go to podcasts. I can say, how many museum focused podcasts are there? Surprisingly enough, or at least surprising to me, 3,618. So you and we're not going to be on Joe Blow's podcast that has 17 listeners. We're going to use these rankings, right? So top 1.5%, top 2%, top 5%. Just look at these titles, right? Museum Confidential, Museum Archipelago, whatever that is. I know what an archipelago is, but I'm not sure what a museum archipelago is. Making the Museum. Right? Some of these are going to be niche-y, right? So the Tokyo Midtown presents the Lifestyle Murder Museum. Sometimes individual museums themselves have a podcast. So the National Palace Museum looks like it's in maybe Japan or Korea or something. But you can certainly find lots and lots of things. So let's look at, you can look at any one of these.
I was going to say, take me one step further.
See who's been a guest.
Yeah.
And we can see who's been a guest. So let's say that you're a museum guru. So I'm going to type in here, we're going to follow the leader, and we're going to do Devin Sizemore. And this time I'm not looking for podcasts, although you do have a nice podcast there. I'm going to look at episodes, and episodes will show me the 77 podcasts where you've been a guest. So the theory is, if Devin is a museum guru, I am a museum guru, I should be on Cashflow Ninja. I should be on Growth and Freedom. I should be on the journey. I should be on Mastering the Art of Networking. Why? Simply because my friend and friendly competitor Devin was on these shows as a museum guru. If they love talking to him, they're going to love talking to me. So here is 77 laser focused results, and I can put 3 more competitors in here, right? I can say, okay, here's the 77 shows Devin was on. I know my friend Susan is a museum guru. Let's see the 35 shows she was on. And my buddy Fred's also a museum guru. Fred's been on 49 shows. Now I have the next 2 years of my podcast campaign pretty much dialed in by playing Follow the Leader.
Man, that I think we're just gonna take that last snippet, and that's gonna be my whole promotion of David. David, just
There you
like
go.
if you guys don't get value out of this little snippet, don't bother booking a meeting. But I promise you did, so go book a damn meeting. What a great tool. And I asked the niche one because I hear that a lot, right? And as we're talking to our clients, Steve has coined the $1 million reader, right? So how we identify who you're writing your book to. And
Yes.
so thinking about that, like we can then scale that into just the little work you did, plus all of your other strategies for being a guest and presenting and calls to action and where to send them. And there's so much more content, but just
Right.
scratching the surface here, that's amazing. And that was real time. We looked at museums, which you knew nothing about. That was just a random ask. You
Yeah.
looked me up randomly, which we didn't plan, and you can see real time. Matter of fact, what's funny is I didn't actually know one of those podcasts that's on that list was live yet. Talk to me about stages, right? How is speaking different? Well, where do we even start this journey into speaking? Is it for everybody? Start me off on speaking.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is that I wrote an entire book right here. Book number 2 is called Do It Speaking, which is how to monetize all kinds of speaking. And I always put speaking in a bigger box. So yes, it's stages for sure, in-person stages, but it's also virtual. So it's also things like summits. It's also things like webinars. It's also things like live streaming. So it can be virtual online in 2D or it can be live in person in 3D. Speaking is probably the number one to many marketing tool and one to many sales platform. Many authors say, Devin, I know that I could get more clients. I just need to get in front of more people. When people see me, when people hear me, when people experience me, I get business. And they're usually talking one on one or small group. Imagine if you could talk to 200 people at once. Imagine if you could talk to 100 people at once, 80 people at once. That's what a speak to sell strategy is all about. And when I say speak to sell, I don't mean you're pitching a product or a program from the stage. Just like on a podcast, there is a natural, easy, organic next step call to action. Some people throw up a QR code, some people have some companion tools that they download, and then some people do make a direct offer from the stage. It all depends on the venue and the context and the rules and the expectations of the host. Some stages have an absolutely no sales, no selling, hardcore, no self promotion policy. And there are strategies to monetize that kind of stage. And some places are a little bit more loose and a little bit more friendly. And so you can make direct offers. But whether you do it directly, indirectly, selling books, selling coaching, selling professional services, the more you speak, the more people you reach. And some of those buyers are ready right now. It's the same thing with the podcast. Some of those folks in the audience will be cold, some will be warm and are ready to have a conversation. Some are hot and have been looking for someone like you. They see you on a stage that has the built in credibility because there's only one of you and you've got the microphone and there's 100 of them and they're sitting in the seats. So, pop quiz, find the expert in the room. It's the person on the stage, it's the person in front of the microphone. One of the things that I really believe, and especially with things like doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, marketing agency owners, everyone loves jargon, everyone loves complexity. The speaker that is going to win that room is the speaker that can democratize and popularize their topic. Make it easy to understand complicated concepts simplified to a level that is easy to understand, easy to comprehend, and easy to get some take home value from. I don't want to give them everything that they need to be successful. I've been doing it for 20 years. I could talk to you for an hour and I've just scratched the teeny tiny surface. Your ability to implement without my help is extremely low, sometimes zero. For the 5% of your audience at a speaking venue, for the 5% that can do it themselves, good luck to them. 95%, the more that you detail and also democratize, popularize, but realize that there's also a lot going on behind the scenes, they go, wow, this is awesome. This is great. I can get my arms around this. I don't want to do it though. Can I hire you to do it? Can I hire you to do it with me, do it for me, or help me to guide my implementation so I don't screw it up? Yes. And this is where people come up to you after the speaking event and say, we have to talk. We just had a board meeting about this. We know we need to do what you talked about. We have no idea where to get started. Can we talk on Monday? Yes, we can talk on Monday. And the more that you give, the more people realize that you're the real deal. I think the big problem with speaking and the whole speak to sell is these webinars that we go on to for the first 25 minutes is I was born a small black child in a trailer. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad beat me every night, 25 minutes. And then one or two surface pieces of content, and then buy my $25,000 thing. No, that's not speak to sell. That's not how it works today. That's not how it works in 2025. In 2025, it's about offer value, invite engagement, in person, online, video, webinar, live stream. People know that you have a business. People know that you have a product or a service. So I'll give you one quick example from a law firm. This was a estate planning attorney in Los Angeles. This guy was in a very crowded market, to your earlier point. Everyone does the seminar. Here's what a will looks like. Here's the living will. Here's power of attorney. Make sure you have your documents. Get the red manila folder. Put all your critical stuff. Okay. Estate planning attorney. Where was he? Los Angeles, Hollywood. He did his entire presentation on famous celebrities, movie stars, and TV stars that died without a will. And what happened to the money? What happened to the house? What happened to the spouse? What happened to the property? People were laughing. They were rolling in the aisles. He was entertaining. The stories were startling. Oh my God, Prince died without a will. What happened to the hundreds of millions? Let me tell you what happened to the hundreds of millions. So in an entertaining, accessible way, remember, democratizer, popularizer, he got so much business from those seminars. Those were live seminars in a room in front of a live audience. People go, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to my family. He did not talk about here's a will, here's a living will, here's a healthcare directive. He was telling stories about famous singers, entertainers, musicians, and actors. He got a ton of business. That was the only marketing that he ever had to do. So think about what would be a speaking strategy that would work for you and your audience that makes them go, hang on, this person I'm listening to right now is special and different, and I trust them and I like them.
First, I love to be unique, right? Please don't just go out there and regurgitate the same crap. Especially, I love the estate attorney one because that's such. And when we work with our clients, luckily we help them find their USP or their unique mechanism or whatever makes them tick. So you're already, if you're $1 million author client and you just listened to David's advice, you're already there because we helped you get there. But if you haven't written your book yet and gotten the clarity we talked about earlier, yeah. And then I love that you talk about withholding value. We talk to people about that all the time in the book world too, where they're like, I don't want to give them everything because the do-it-yourself client's not your ideal client anyways. And so if they don't have the budget or they don't value their time enough to want to outsource it to a professional, that's probably the pain in the ass client, the PITA, right? I've had people at the end of some of my sessions be like, I have 4 pages of notes just from your presentation. Like my presentation was 20 minutes. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, no, I was taking screenshots and photos and I have so many questions. I'm like, fantastic. Why don't we schedule a meeting and unpack that? Because I love the idea. I use a fire hydrant. It used to be my second slide when I had my marketing agency was a fire hydrant. And I would tell the room, hey, it's going to feel like a fire hydrant because I do this for a living and my team has put together a ton of great resources for you. I'm going to talk fast and move fast. You're getting a recording or you're going to get a copy of the slides. Grab the nuggets that work for you, but here we go. And that overwhelm of value generated so much deal flow for us because they looked at us and went, none of the other agencies are talking about this stuff. None of them are showing us the Google Analytics panel. None of us are showing cases where website launches failed or bounce rates were horrific or like we showed everything because the wins, the losses, it's all real. And so I want to validate what you said so much because I've seen it work. And I know people in my network, we're talking 7, 8, 9 figures in revenue just from the speaking strategy.
One of the things that I've shared, it's so funny that you mentioned about the case studies, the before and after, etc. I believe in baking when you're speaking in person, online, when you're both, when you're speaking, you absolutely want to use client success stories and testimonials. But I don't just mean teach, oh, look, client success story, teach, oh, look, testimonial. Use the testimonials as the teaching points. So, one of my slides that I share with audiences when we promote the whole idea is testimonials that teach are testimonials that sell. And you don't want to be doing teach weird, unrelated testimonial. You want to take the testimonial and then unpack what made that client successful. What did they do? What did they change? How did they implement your idea? That also gives you, by the way, when the testimonial is on the slide behind you or on the screen in front of you, if it's a testimonial that supports a teaching point, it can be on the screen for 2 minutes. So do you want it on the screen to flash by in 30 seconds, or do you want it to sit there for 2 minutes and saying the money that I gave Devin Sizemore was I had a 10x ROI because I implemented strategy 1, strategy 2, and strategy 3. Let me tell you about strategy 1. The first thing we did with Devin is we helped him decommoditize his messaging. We also helped him win more stages. And so now it's like I am teaching to the testimonial. And the testimonial has now earned its place in my deck because it's not just frivolous promotion. It is a deep dive case study, real life example of what the audience can take away based on what I helped this one client with. So that's another huge insight. I started doing this about 5 years ago, is the testimonials that teach or the testimonials that sell, and just off the charts difference between teach, isolated testimonial, teach, isolated testimonial.
I have one of, especially in the SEO world when I was playing there, we would teach the topic and then we would parallel it with a real story. And so
Yes.
we'd say, here's the stuff you have to know,
Yeah.
right? And then let me show what that actually looks like, right? Because
Yes.
what I said probably means nothing to you. It's all theory and you don't play in my world. And so then I'd use it as the pull back the curtain moment, right? Let me show you this vehicle wrapping company in Sparks, Nevada that hired the wrong company, blacklisted their SEO, their website disappeared, they lost all their revenue. Here's the metrics, here's the stats, and it's on the screen. And you can just see the whole room holding their breath going, please, I hope there's good news. And then you give them
Right.
the good news and show the testimonial, and all of a sudden they're vested in that client's journey, which
Right.
just made them buy into your success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Talk to me about one more question I have, and then I have another question, but let's go here real quick. So speaking, how do we find them? What do we do? Well, how the hell do we find stages? Like, I know there's events happening everywhere, but
Sure.
do they want to hear me speak? How do I even start? Give me a couple tips.
So, research, relevance, and having the right places to look. So, that's association conferences to find the meeting planners, the conference producers, the program chairs that are in charge of those meetings. And there's a whole series of job titles that you can look for. When in doubt, you can go to the top person who, in an association, is going to be the executive director or the CEO. 15 minutes of research on their website about their upcoming programming and their past programming, which is almost like a similar strategy to follow the leader in the podcast world. So if, oh, I saw you had Devin speak at your 2024 leadership summit. If your audience loved his content, you will probably get a lot of value from mine. It's different, but it is talks about whatever. And you wouldn't even have to necessarily say, oh, I found Devin, but you say, based on me researching your previous speakers, my guess is this would be a great fit for your audience. Like, oh my God. So they get cold pitched a dozen times a day. Literally, the world of smile and dial cold calling is alive and well in speaker world, which sucks for the people doing it because it doesn't work. And it's awesome for the people who do 15 minutes of research ahead of time. Because you imagine getting a call saying, hey, Devin, you're the program chair of the Pennsylvania AICPA, if you're dealing with accountants. Hey, Devin, I see you have a meeting coming up in Hershey, Pennsylvania in June of 2025. I'm curious, have you selected your main stage speakers for that event yet? I noticed that you had a couple of speakers on the topic of taxation and compliance at last year's event. I have something that connects with that, but adds kind of an AI spin. Do you think that might be relevant for your audience? And so we have a conversation around that. You say, that sounds like it might be a great fit. I'm curious, what would you like to see from me to be considered? That's the magic phrase. What would you like to see from me to be considered? You can get more done in a 5-minute conversation and then ask the person, what would you like to see from me to be considered? And so they will tell you, I'd love to have a speaker video. If you have a one sheet or something, that would be amazing. So you're now a person of interest because number one, you've done your research. Number two, you're not cold calling, generic spamming them with the same crap that you sent to 100 other associations or conferences or meeting planners. And you're an actual human being. Now, people say, wait a second, if I call them out of the blue, having done my research, isn't that the same thing as a cold call? My answer is no. What's the difference between a cold call and a warm call? A warm call is based on research and relevance, and that helps you establish a trusted relationship where they are not going to mistake you for one of these idiots that has done no research and is calling 100 people a day going, do you hire speakers? Do you hire speakers? Hey, what do you guys do over there anyway? Accountant. So that's interesting. You don't know who you're calling. You don't know why you're calling. You don't know who they serve. And it's a disaster. Again, the bar is low. The good news is the bar is low because every other speaker moron is doing that. You do it the smart way, the way I just described, you will be in the top 10% of people that ever call on them.
Thank you. That was what I was hoping for. So give me the snippet of who the heck are you? What books have you written? Why the hell should they trust you?
So, my name is David Newman. I run a company called Do It Marketing. I've written 3 books, Do It Marketing, Do It Speaking, and Do It Selling. And we work with CEOs, founders, and executives who want to build their market eminence. My definition of market eminence is a combination of visibility, credibility, and brand preference. So the brand preference starts with you, the CEO, the founder, the senior executive. If you're someone worthy of attention, then your company is worthy of attention and your company's products and services are worthy of attention. There was some research done, it's pre-pandemic, but I think it's true even post-pandemic, that in the world that we're in now, 2017, 2018, 2019 was when this research was done, the CEO's personal brand is even more important than the company brand. And if you want some quick evidence of this, go to your favorite social media channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is. Find the CEO of a company that you respect and admire. Look at their personal profile and then look at their company profile. And you tell me who has more followers. The CEO will almost always have more followers than the company. And that's true in the Fortune 500. Personal brands are more important than company brands, especially when it comes to attracting key audiences, whether that is prospects, partners, clients, investors, people that want to do business with you, people that want to come work for you, top talent, especially the younger generation, right? So now we have Gen Y, Gen Z, the millennials. They are much more interested in the CEO's personal brand than in what the company brand, which is impersonal, cold, and corporate. They're like, what does that CEO stand for? What is that CEO's personal track record with the environment and with social justice and with all these different movements that are important to the next generation of workers? So if you can build your CEO brand through speaking, publishing, and podcasting, you are also building your company brand, and you're much more likely to attract the partners, the talent, the prospects, the clients, and the media attention that you deserve.
David is a high impact, high value, get you to the finish line leader. And we want to share him with you because we are confident that if you've gone through the process, the energy, and the time to write, publish your book, you damn well better promote it and fully own that you are a thought leader, you are an expert, and you deserve to be on these stages, to be on the podcast, and to have that impact in the world. By you getting out there and promoting it, you're employing more people, helping more clients, scaling your company, and fostering impact. And that's why I love what I'm doing. I'm sure that's part of what drives David to do what he
Yeah.
does. So, David, how do they reach out to you if they want to get a hold? What should they lean into? Give me the calls to action.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a free PDF manifesto that talks a little bit about building market eminence and building a brand preference out there in the marketplace. That's at doitmarketing.com/manifesto. And we also have a 37-minute executive briefing. It's an on-demand executive briefing available 24/7. That is at doitmarketing.com/webinar. And those are two great starting.
Perfect. And all of your books available on Amazon, or do we buy on your
Yes, yeah,
website?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever fine books are sold.
Perfect. Any social platforms that you prefer people reaching out to you on? Are you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is probably the best spot because that's the least noisy.
That's so true. Awesome, David. I appreciate your time.